All right, we're working on Friday after all. This is a fun week, man. It's so interesting. Holy cow. I thought the Titans were going to be tough. How about the Bears? They acquire Keenan Allen for a 4th-round pick. Meanwhile, Marquise Brown is going to the Chiefs on a 1-year deal that could be worth up to $11 million. I'll remind everyone that Juju Smith-Schuster in 2022, before his concussion, his first 8 games of the season, he was the number 24 wide receiver per game for the Chiefs with 90 on pace for 94 catches, 1,237 yards, 4 touchdowns. On 128 targets, he had a 19.2% target share. That was what Juju did. You know, he hasn't been nearly as good in the years surrounding that, and it was only an 8-game stretch, and then everything went south in the second half of the year. But just some context. Also, Dave, Donald Parham. Because I just had to mention his name. Yeah. So now it's happened.
Why?
Because I think he's underrated, and now everyone has such an opportunity for the Chargers right now. So that's why I just had to mention Donald Parham's name.
So are you going to draft Donald Parham with your last pick in every draft this year?
I think if the season started today and no changes were made, I would draft him ahead of Cole Kmet.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I just expect enough changes to be made where Parham isn't great ham.
No.
Yeah, might not even be good ham. He might be meh-ham.
Par for the course ham. Okay, I'm going to give you
We've had better days with puns.
One obvious take, one lukewarm take, and 2 hot takes. Although you didn't think one of them was so hot. So one obvious take, one lukewarm take, one warmish take, and I don't know.
And then one scorcher.
One hot take.
You've got a scorching hot take for us.
What is hotter, warm or lukewarm?
Warm.
Warm. Okay. So one warm take. All right, here we go. One obvious take. I have no interest in Cole Kmet.
Yeah, no one's gonna. Late round pick, depending on who he plays in the early part of the season.
One lukewarm take. Justin Herbert is a backup fantasy quarterback outside the top 12.
For now, absolutely. I don't think that's even lukewarm.
I don't even know what changes that. I mean, if
well, who are they drafting with their 1st-round pick?
Harrison or Neighbors or Odunze.
All right, so that's a nice start, and maybe they add somebody else along the way here. I know that they're going to try and be physical and run heavy. I think Jim Harbaugh would be a little nuts to completely ignore the fact that he's got one of the best young quarterbacks in football on his team.
Sure.
So why would they do? I don't know. So is he throwing as much as he did last year on a per game basis? I'm going to say no. But is it going to be like maybe 3 attempts per game less? That'll add up over the course of a season, and you're going to see his projection hammered. I'm much more interested in who he's throwing to rather than the volume of how much he throws.
Oh, what an opportunity for a rookie wide receiver. Okay, speaking of which.
It's a better opportunity there now than in Arizona. Like whoever your favorite rookie wide receiver is, if it's Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison, Rome Odunze, you want them to go to LA. You don't want them to go to Arizona.
Have you seen those commercials? I really want to be in LA. Like the weirdest commercial. Yeah, no, they're so weird. It's this really strange song.
What are you watching that comes on?
Anything. They're all over the place. Okay, anyway, third warm take.
Is it like an advertisement to visit Los Angeles?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't make me want to go to Los Angeles.
Warm take.
Go ahead.
If the Cardinals or Chargers draft Marvin Harrison and or Malik Neighbors and Rome Odunze,
all three?
Yeah, well, if those guys, if one of them ends up in one of those spots or 2 of them end up in one of those spots, they should be picked ahead of any Chiefs or Bears wide receiver. And then I made it even warmer. I said they should be, this is the hottest take, they should be 2nd-round picks.
All right, let's go through this exercise because I'm not sure that that's such a fiery take. I think that kind of makes sense. I do get hung up a little bit on one of those guys, like whoever ends up in LA versus DJ Moore. And I don't know about 2nd round. But let's just say that Marvin Harrison's my favorite wide receiver, and he goes to LA, and he's clearly the number one. Yeah, I think in PPR you can make the case to take him over DJ Moore. Can you make the case to take him over Stephon Diggs? Maybe.
Yeah, I could make the case.
We'll see how that goes. But I think in like the best possible scenario, if they go to LA, they really want to be in LA. Then, sure. I don't think that that's too far off. Putting him over Rashee Rice, that's fine. Putting him over Keenan Allen, even in full PPR, I'm okay with that too. It's a different game now for Keenan Allen.
I guess I'm sort of feeling like free agency and these trades, this week of NFL action has given us more losers than winners.
That's usually how it goes.
Is it? Maybe.
Yeah.
And I felt kind of iffy about the back end of round 2. Usually when we do fantasy drafts, I feel like we run out of players that I love around 30 overall most years. I'm feeling it around 20 overall, if not earlier than that right now. And that could change, obviously, but I don't really feel like I want to take Isaiah Pacheco and James Cook and Rachaad White in the top 30, or they might sneak into the top 24 in some leagues. You know, Rashee Rice was there in our PPR drafts. He's not going to be there anymore. And you know what? We've had 2 pretty low-scoring NFL seasons by comparison to what we were dealing with just a few years ago. And we didn't have great quarterback play last year. So it was deep, but it wasn't great. So I think that's part of it. It just doesn't feel like we have as many stud players. Some of the players we've relied upon for so long have aged out. So we'll see. But that's kind of how I'm feeling. Like maybe those guys, I don't think they're going to get drafted in the second round, but I think they might perform that way, especially Harrison.
I'm certain that there will be some aggressive drafters that take them, especially Harrison, in late round 2, because they're going to be caught up in the hype. It's almost like the same hype that we got caught up in with Bijan, and it might be more applicable to Gibbs. Weren't there like 2 guys in every draft, minimum 2 drafters that wanted Gibbs at whatever cost it took and reached for Gibbs last
early round 3? And that was me. I did a lot of that.
Right. And that ultimately that worked out for you. You didn't love it in the early part of the season, but by the end of the year, you loved it. I think it would be an interesting exercise to go through the list of players in our, top 30 or so. How many of them are top 20 guys? Half of them will be easy. But where is that line in the sand?
Well, let's take a look at round 2 of the most recent mock draft we did and tell me where you think the big drop-off is.
Sure.
And I have one more hot take. Kyren Williams, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave has done nothing.
I know.
I would take him in the second round, but he's done nothing to deserve it yet. He has to reach that point.
When he's gotten targets, he's been great. It's just a matter of, will he get a lot of targets?
Doesn't score a lot of touchdowns yet, but okay. Rashee Rice was the 4th pick of round 2. Is he still a round 2 pick?
Yeah. He's out.
Saquon Barkley, Travis Etienne.
Saquon's in.
Etienne.
In.
Yeah, I think he's in too, but I like him a lot. But I just, coming off the season he had, the finish he had anyway, taking him 6th over, taking him, 18th overall, it's a little high. All right.
So like the first 2 that like just barely crossed that line are Etienne and Olave.
Okay. And Devontae Adams.
I've got him out.
Josh Jacobs. This was before last week.
I know. He's in for sure.
DJ Moore.
Out. Not a top 20 pick.
Devon Achane.
I have him just out of the top 20.
Nico Collins.
I have him in.
Yeah.
Full PPR, I have him in. And I would put Achane in ahead of Adams at this point.
And then Stephon Diggs.
Diggs is right on that line. It's the red line sponsored by Stephon Diggs. That's what it's called, because everything's sponsored these days. He's sponsoring it. But he is the line.
Okay. One more take here.
Do you have any other names? Does everybody watching or listening have any other names?
Kelsey, Laporta, Keenan Allen, Tank Dell.
Out. Dell is out.
These are the first
top 20 guys
of round 3. Cooper Kupp, Deebo Samuel, Rachaad White, Jalen Waddle.
You can make the case for White, but it's not an exciting case. So he's out.
And my last hot take, hottest take yet. Caleb Williams will be a top 5 quarterback.
That's why? How? Just because he's got Moore and Allen?
I mean, what an opportunity
Great
he is
combo.
stepping into.
Yes.
Most guys that get picked number 1 overall don't walk into this. Andrew Luck, I went back 2012. Let me see where he finished. He had a really good year. He threw a lot of interceptions, though, so he probably didn't finish that high.
Caleb might do that.
He finished 10th overall. And per game is probably around that, too. He had Reggie Wayne and a rookie, T.Y. Hilton. Who else? Justin Herbert had Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. Keenan Allen had like just under 1,000 yards in 14 games. And Herbert, I'm thinking he had the best rookie fantasy. Oh, maybe Cam Newton had the best rookie fantasy season, but he was a rusher. I think he had Steve Smith, though, right? He had one great receiver, or Greg, I don't know, whatever it was. I'm sorry, I'm not remembering. But this is, holy cow, what a situation Caleb Williams, who's also going to make some plays with his legs, is walking into. And do I really think he's going to be a top 5 quarterback? I'm not going to draft him that way, but I definitely think it's possible because I still am a believer in Keenan Allen. I think he's going to age very well and has another really good season left in him.
So I've got a lot to say about this, but the first thing I was going to say is, to me, this cemented Caleb Williams going number 1 overall. If there was any doubt about it before, I think it's gone now, because one of the best traits that Caleb Williams showed in college was his ability to make plays on the fly. Play breaks down. He's got to move around. He needs his receivers to get open. His guys at USC didn't always do a very good job of that. Now he doesn't have just one receiver who's really good at that. He's got 2. And in the case of Keenan Allen, what is he now? What type of a receiver is he now? He's basically the same type of receiver that he's been his whole career. Short area target, just absolutely dominant inside of 15 air yards. Great route runner, does not have speed, but can get open and has great hands, and he's got good size. He's perfect for a young quarterback who moves around and can throw with better accuracy than the predecessor in Chicago, which is Justin Fields. And I went back and I studied, how are these guys on throwing inside of 14 air yards? And I'm not going to bore you with the details. I'm just going to tell you that when it came to off-target throws, Caleb Williams in college, very, very low. Justin Fields in the pros each of the last 2 years, pretty high. So the completion rate should be better. Williams is more accurate. And I think it's a perfect fit for one of Caleb Williams' great strengths. Now, the other great strength about this is that if the Bears fortify that offensive line, Caleb won't have to make as many scramble plays. He won't have to put the cape on and be Superman. And when those plays happen, I think that's going to be great for DJ Moore, because defenses can't just focus on him from now on. This is a good offense. It lacks a little bit of speed. They need somebody who can truly take the top off. DJ Moore can do that. It would be great if they found somebody else who could do it as well. And there is real potential here for this offense to be great. So to solidify your hot take, Adam, I think Caleb Williams will be an automatic late round blue chip type of pick once he's drafted by the Chicago Bears.
Right now, he's going ahead of Herbert, but that could change.
Where's he going ahead of Herbert?
I'm just saying, like he's going ahead of Herbert. Right
in your drafts?
But just right now, if we were all drafting today, he'd go ahead of Herbert.
I'm not so sure that he would, but they'll be close. They will be close. 2-3 rounds apart max.
Would he go ahead of Tua? Would he go ahead of?
Hard to make the case to put him ahead of Tua when Tua himself has a couple of really good receivers, and we've seen Tua do it. So no.
Okay. I guess I'm going to be right now.
Adam? What about Trevor Lawrence?
Oh, absolutely. We didn't really talk about
yes, I think that's a big yes.
Yeah, how do you not take
make him QB 15 right now?
Yeah, all right. I mean, again, I draft a high-end backup. There are going to be some good ones this year. We got to take a break. Also,
you don't have to draft them, because for each one that comes up and we say, oh yeah, you got to draft Caleb Williams, or now there's intrigue with Will Levis, it just pushes another one down. So you don't have to do it.
Sure. Okay. I need your rankings. I need to know how you feel about Rashee Rice, Marquise Brown, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen. Where are these guys going to go with this?
Ready.
Travis Kelce, Donald Parham, obviously.
Batman symbol.
Okay. We'll be right back. Actually, wait, before we do that, join our bracket challenge. Go to cbssports.com/FFT. All right. Do that. And you can get in the podcast league if you win it. You will get in the podcast league if you win it, but you're not going to win it because I'm going to win it. We'll be right back on Fantasy Football Today.
Who's in? Who's out? Let the madness begin. The NCAA Men's Basketball Championship Selection Show on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
So hold on a second. If you win the bracket challenge, no one gets that spot in the podcast league?
I think what I said is you're not going to win because I'm going to win. I didn't say that second place wouldn't get in the bracket challenge.
All right, I just want to make sure someone's got to get in the podcast league.
Yeah.
we need a loser.
Okay.
So that we can, beat them.
All right. So now, did you want to give me your rankings or did you want to give me your takes and we can put them on the spicyometer and discuss how spicy they are?
Well, why don't I give the rankings and then you can tell me if those are spicy or not, because the takes and the ranks are basically the same.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So just going through wide receiver, DJ Moore is at the top of all the guys that we're talking about today. I still have him as a round 3 pick. I still think he's got the best shot to lead Chicago in targets. I don't know if he's going to get quite as many as he had last year. Like, there will be a bigger drop off for Keenan Allen, I think, going from LA to Chicago in terms of targets per game. But Keenan Allen was getting like 11 targets per game. It was the most among wide receivers last year. I still think DJ Moore also has the best shot to lead them in touchdowns. He's explosive. Had a really good year last year with Justin Fields. Theoretically, he's getting a QB upgrade with Caleb Williams. I don't mind him one bit. But now, instead of taking him in round 2, he's a middle of round 3 pick. I'm still okay taking him ahead of Brandon Ayuk, Jalen Waddle, Mike Evans, Drake London, Michael Pittman. Behind all those names is Rashee Rice, who I think is going to need to still be that end zone hound in order to come through for fantasy managers. Had a good year last year. The ADOT was low. Now I'm worried that that's not going to change that much. I still think they're going to use him as a short and intermediate receiver, kind of like the way that Keenan Allen has been used lately in LA. And so if that's going to be his role, which makes sense because Marquise Brown has speed, downfield type of wide receiver, I think Rice will still get more targets than Brown over the balance of the season. But now I feel like Rice is going to need those touchdowns on top of it. The catches will be there, full PPR, more of a round 4 pick, early to middle round 4. Behind him, Keenan Allen, who, let's call it 7 targets per game. Maybe even more than that. Maybe it could be 8 targets per game. Who says Chicago can't funnel the targets to those 2 wide receivers? And as I mentioned earlier, he's a really good fit for Caleb Williams. It's the yardage and the touchdowns that make me nervous with Keenan Allen. Could he end up with 9 yards per catch? I don't think that would surprise anybody. Could he end up with 5 or 6 touchdowns? I don't think that would surprise anybody. But in full PPR, if he's getting 8 targets per game and he's not the number 1 receiver, he might be catching 7 passes per game. So I think that Keenan Allen in PPR is still worth that round 4 pick. I had him as a round 4 pick before the trade. He's just going to stay there in full PPR. Any questions so far? You want to rate these on the takeometer?
DJ Moore, middle round 3. Rashee Rice, middle round 4.
Early middle round 4 on Rice.
Keenan Allen, round 5.
Yeah.
12-team PPR. Is that what we're saying?
That's what I'm saying.
The last time we were worried about Keenan Allen was that Justin Herbert's rookie year, 2020. And he fell to like round 4 or 5. And he was the 6th best wide receiver per game. Justin Herbert had an amazing rookie year in terms of just passing yards. I don't know that Williams is going to do that. And he's 32 now. Keenan Allen, he'll be 32 next month. These are not spicy. These are good. No. I think taking DJ Moore over, say, Mike Evans and Jalen Waddle, like, I'm fine with it. I think these are good. I think these are. I'm having trouble. I'm honestly having trouble with it. It's not easy. It's like the Titans, but I think it's even harder because with the Titans, I think with Levis. And by the way, I'm doing all of this just assuming Caleb Williams is the quarterback. I think it's a logical assumption.
I am too. I think if they stick with Fields, it makes it worse on these receivers.
Yeah, this is harder to me than the Bears are harder to me than the Titans, at least because I feel like you can just sort of, if you want, you can ignore the Titans. I don't think you can do that with the Bears. They're too high end and getting drafted earlier. So yeah, okay, this sounds fine. I'm probably a little higher on Keenan Allen, a little higher. Like, I think putting him ahead of Rashee Rice is actually justifiable, but go on. What about Marquise Brown?
I've got it Rice, Cooper Kupp, and Keenan Allen in my rankings among wide receivers.
Okay. I don't really love that range. Like, they all make me nervous.
In PPR, I think it's fine.
But they
you
all
can make a case for any of those 3 to finish as top 12 PPR per game receivers. You
Okay.
can also make the case that all three of them could be outside of the top 24.
How about Marquise Brown?
Brown's going to be a little bit further down. I'm struggling with him against Alfred, him against Zay Flowers, him against Christian Kirk. I don't want to overrate Brown, but we've seen him have these pockets where he's just absolutely awesome as the number one receiver for Arizona. He did it for Baltimore. We've seen him play well. I think he's going to be a lot more inconsistent and volatile now that he's in Kansas City, but clearly he's there to put a lid on this whole who's going to be the deep threat guy. It's not going to be MVS anymore. It's going to be Marquise Brown. And Brown, I reviewed his deep targets from Kyler Murray only over the last 2 seasons. And I thought for the most part, he was still very fast. I think part of the issue was that Kyler was off target. And now he's going from Kyler Murray to Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes was off target. I want to say it was like 16%. I got it right here. 18.2% of his throws of 15 or more air yards. 6th best among qualifying quarterbacks last year. That includes guys who didn't throw that much, like Andy Dalton and Dak. Well, no, I'm sorry. Dak threw a ton. These are just deep throws. Guys who didn't throw deep a lot last year. Andy Dalton, Dak Prescott, they didn't attempt a ton of deep throws. But Mahomes did 110 of those throws and off target on only 18%. That's a win for Marquise Brown. He's obviously in an offense that desperately needs somebody like him. He can also win in the short area. We saw him do that a few years ago. And so I worry about him when Kansas City gets into the red zone. Might not even be on the field. But as far as taking the top off the defense, getting other players open, he will do that. And anytime he manages to get one-on-one coverage, Mahomes is going to throw it to him. So I look at him as a number 3 receiver where if things break right, Kelsey misses time, Rice misses time, Rice stinks, Kelsey stinks, that dude could be a number 1 receiver. So I see him as someone that I'm taking right near the end of round 6, beginning of round 7. I know there are people out there who had Marquise Brown before, and they're going, ew, I would never take him there. Gross. But this might be his last chance to prove that he can be a good receiver in the National Football League and to prove to everybody in fantasy that he's a capable guy. He's in the right offense for it.
I'm actually, I think, kind of bullish on him, on Marquise Brown. First of all, deep threat. He's gotten this label as a deep threat. He's not MVS. He's not a guy that only goes deep, as you said.
Thank goodness he's not MVS. Otherwise, he's not being Kansas City.
Gabe Davis. He's a more well-rounded receiver. His ADOT's usually, I think, around 11, 12 yards. It's been very consistent.
It's been right around 11 each of the last 2 years, but we've seen
3. It's been around 11 4 of the last 5 years. He's not a 15-yard ADOT guy. He's not a 14. So I think that's a good, nice ADOT. Means you're going deep sometimes. You're doing everything all over the field, basically. So, I don't want people to get that impression of Marquise Brown. I feel like he's been labeled that way, and he's never really been that way. And, just going back to 2022 when DeAndre Hopkins wasn't there, he was, I think, the number 7 wide receiver in fantasy for the first 6 games of the year.
Awesome. And he had moments. He had a streak. I think it was like the first 5 games this past season with Dobbs, maybe even a game with Clayton Tune where he was around 15 PPR a game.
Yeah, he was horrible with Murray. I thought he was going to be great with Kyler, and he just wasn't.
Everybody thought so. Yeah, one of those guys that we told people go trade for him. 15.2 PPR points per game in his first 5, mostly with Dobbs. And then the year before, this is what you're going to love. Well, I don't know. See, here's the problem. Okay, first 6 games without Hopkins in 2022 with Kyler Murray, 18.3 PPR points per game. That's not a round 6 guy. That's a round 2 guy. But he's not going to have that type. He had 10.7 targets per game. Right. I don't see a way for him to get even 8.7 targets per game. He might be around 6.7 targets per game in Kansas City.
The thing about Rice is that I don't like to pigeonhole a guy into a role that he had in his rookie season. We see it all the time. They develop into different players. But he did have the lowest ADOT basically among any relevant wide receiver. And
his ADOT was a shoelace.
I just don't know. Yeah. I don't know how good you can be consistently. I don't think you can make explosive plays. I don't think you can really score a lot of touchdowns. I mean, maybe with Mahomes with that kind of ADOT, but I don't necessarily think he's going to stay that way. However, it was so low last year that it does concern me a bit. So it really, I don't know how surprised. I would draft Rice ahead of Brown because look, Brown's been in the league for 5 seasons or I think 5. Yeah. And he's really never had a standout season. He's had standout stretches. That's it. That you can't ignore just his basic stats. But I wouldn't be surprised if he's better than Rice, assuming they both stay healthy. Would you be surprised?
A little bit, because I think Rice has the edge in the red zone. And, did he have a low ADOT last year because Kansas City just couldn't move the ball any other way? Think back to the regular season. They didn't have that second or third receiver that was any good. Kelsey wasn't great. They were limiting him. And so they were kind of feeding him a lot. So I wonder now if Brown's there and Kelsey's healthy and they use Kelsey, not every single snap, but a lot of the plays. Do his targets kind of stay the same and his ADOT goes up a little bit? That's to your point. Where I've seen Rashee Rice win since he was in college is finding the end zone. And this won't hurt. Like, I understand that here's somebody coming along to take targets away from him. I looked at what other wide receivers in Kansas City got in terms of targets, aside from the number one target getter each of the last 2 years. Juju had 101 targets in 2022. All the other receivers had nearly 200 targets combined. MVS led the way with 81. Last year, Rashee had 102 targets. And remember, he started the year pretty slow, didn't have a lot of targets. There's probably a pace much better than that if you go from like the middle of the season to the end of the season. Yes. But every other wide receiver in Kansas City still had 217 targets combined. Nobody had more than 53. They're looking for somebody to get somewhere between, let's call it 80 and 110 targets alongside Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce. Now that's Brown. And so I don't think he's got a shot to get to 120 targets or 130 targets without some injuries along the way. But like I said, like right around 7 targets per game, you could call it. I think he can be there. And not every single one's going to be, a big deep ball from Patrick Mahomes. He'll get some short throws. He can win on slants. He's a quick wide receiver, man. Brown can do that. And it'll hurt Rice a little bit, but I still think Rice has the better shot to lead that team in targets among wide receivers anyway.
Would you take Marquise Brown or the Titans wide receivers?
Okay, so I put him in between Ridley and Hopkins for now.
Okay.
That's in pencil.
Dave, have you ever seen the movie The Other Guys?
Yes. I don't remember. I know I've seen it.
Oh,
it's Michael Keaton.
It's Michael Keaton. He's like such a small role.
I know he's in that movie.
Farrell.
Oh, yeah. Farrell was in there.
Wahlberg.
And why am I blanking on Mark's name?
Mark Wahlberg.
Wahlberg.
Yeah. Let's talk about the other guys. Let's talk about Mahomes.
Farrell? Will Ferrell is hilarious.
Yeah, I love that movie.
Michael Keaton's doing Beetlejuice 2. Like,
hey.
This is a great group.
Shut up. Mahomes, Kelsey, Palmer, Quentin Johnston, Parham. Anyone else that you think is affected? Like, who's a big or even a little winner or loser here, from the other guys involved in Arizona, Kansas City, Chicago, Chargers, whatever it might be?
I'm much more comfortable now taking Anthony Richardson ahead of Justin Herbert. I don't know if I feel the same way about Kyler Murray or Tua yet, or Caleb Williams at this point. But yeah, Herbert's moving down. He was already moving down our rankings. Happy to have him behind Stroud, Love, Brock Purdy. That's where he belongs. We don't know what he's going to have at wide receiver. We're pretty sure that the offense is going to be conservative. And Herbert, it's hard to imagine him having a big year. That being said, he could still be very efficient. I'm sure that offensive line will be better than it's been for him. And so if he is efficient and he can score a couple of times, we'll call it 5 touchdowns every 3 games, then yeah, he can still work his way into being a low-end QB1. He's still draftable, but he's one of maybe 3 or 4 quarterbacks that you're going to take a second guy with. It wouldn't be a bad move. Shut up. It wouldn't be a bad move if you took Justin Herbert and Caleb Williams in the same draft.
I earned that. Pause real quick. I got to take a break, and we'll talk about more of the other guys part 2 right after this.
The blackout mystery remains.
Welcome to March Madness.
You just never know in the tournament who is going to shine.
Stream March Madness live on any device, anywhere, and be ready for anything.
Okay, so we talked about Herbert. Yeah, do you feel significantly better about Mahomes, that he deserves to be in the elite tier still?
Does he deserve to be QB1?
I'm
Haha. I'm going to say no.
gonna say no.
Does he deserve to be QB2?
No.
I'm going to say maybe.
Okay.
I
QB1
think the case can
Allen
be
for you?
made to take Mahomes over Jackson and Hurts based on the new running backs playing with Jackson and Hurts.
I was taking him over Jax. I had him 3. You had him 4?
I have him 3.
Okay. Yeah, it's just that Hurts still has Brown and Smith, and Barkley can do some stuff in the passing game. So, yeah, I'm going to take Mahomes 3. Marquise
Over
Brown
Jackson.
isn't that good, but he's good. I do wonder if it hurts Pacheco. Does this drop Pacheco at all?
No, I think again, Brown can take the top off the defense. It's going to force the safeties to play too high. They were already doing that against Kansas City. This makes it easier for Kansas City to kind of feel out how defenses will play them, because if they don't do that, if they don't defend against the deep ball, then they're going to try and take shots now. They have a legitimate threat now in Marquise Brown. And so as long as Brown's on the field along with everybody else, it's going to be really hard. It's going to be hard to imagine Pacheco not being efficient as a running back.
Oh, that's I have no doubt about that. It's the touchdowns. He had 1, 2, 3, 4,
I
5.
think he's going to get a lot.
He had 5 rushing touchdowns from the 1-yard line. And that's just not something that you ever see really from the Chiefs in the Mahomes era. And I just think you'll see more Mahomes touchdowns this year. But all right, no effect there on Pacheco for you. What about Kelsey?
I don't think so. I'm not really moving Kelsey down. I'm already weighing Laporta over him. So hard to move him down behind, tight end 3.
Okay.
I think he's at worst tight end 2, and some people are going to take him over Laporta. That's kind of a choose your own adventure thing. Which flavor you like better? You like the tried and true guy, or you like the young guy in his second year?
Which Chargers skill position player do you have any excitement about at the moment?
No. I don't really. Whoever they draft, I'm not that excited about Gus Edwards, because I'm sure there's going to be another running back there. Their best receivers are Quentin Johnston and Josh Palmer. The best tight end is Donald Parham.
I gotta say, as someone who has Quentin Johnston in a dynasty league, I definitely thought that was just a wasted pick. He's going to be a bust, and it's probably still very, very possible.
Yeah, but it's also, see, at
It's
least now
chance.
we can say that he's got a shot to pan out after all.
Yes.
Who else is there? Even if they draft Neighbors or Harrison, is he not the number 2? Is he not the best case to be the number 2 receiver at the start of training camp for them?
I think Josh Palmer, I mean, I don't think this. I know this. He's been much better. And when Mike Williams got hurt, it was Palmer, not Quentin Johnston, that stepped up, and then Palmer got hurt. Right? So,
right, but you don't know how Johnston, and this is me just defending what I'm saying. You don't know if Johnston's going to get better. You don't know if they're going to use him in a different way, and maybe in a way that he's more comfortable with. And the same thing could be said for Palmer. So could I amend what I said and say that Quentin Johnston's going to be no worse than 3rd? And if so, how often are they going to play with 3 wide receivers? See, that's something that's going to be ugly. On the flip side, if you're playing defense against the Chargers and you're worried about them beating you deep, who are you more scared of getting beat deep by, Palmer or Johnston?
Johnston, but it's not just getting beat deep. I mean,
right. But that's what the rookie receiver is going to be there for. Like Marvin Harrison is as great as he is. Like, can he win deep? Sure. But it's his route running that separates him from everybody else.
Yeah.
And so they need somebody on those 3rd down plays that'll take some pressure off of that rookie receiver who they get. Now, Neighbors has the speed. Neighbors could be the guy that takes the top off too. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see, but it's not like the Chargers aren't going to throw the ball at all. Someone's got to lead them in targets, and they're going to get quality targets from that quarterback. So whoever it is, I'd like to have.
I think one of the issues I have right now for the Chargers is unless they make some type of trade, they've got to get a wide receiver, and I think they have to get a running back.
Yeah.
So I'd love to see them use that 5th pick before the Keenan Allen and Mike Williams departures. I wanted to see them use it on an offensive lineman. I don't think they're going to really be able to upgrade their offensive line all that much. So,
well, it's a deep draft at offensive line and certainly offensive tackle. So I don't have their draft picks in front of me. I can do that right now, but they can find other players. I don't have much worry.
If they don't take an offensive lineman in the first round, I can't imagine they're going to take a guy that's going to significantly impact them.
Okay, they have the 5th pick in every single round in this draft, plus an extra 4th. Obviously, because they just got it from Chicago.
You can expect a running back in round 3 or 4, I think.
Yeah, I mean, they could potentially trade down from 5, still get a very good wide receiver and offensive lineman with their first 2 picks, and have extra picks. Just not one of the headliners at wide receiver.
Boy, this is going to be a great fantasy draft. I mean,
okay, we knew that already.
Yeah, but
that's a cold take.
No, because Bears, Commanders, Patriots, Cardinals, Chargers, Giants, they could all take quarterbacks or wide receivers.
Yep.
Right? With the first 6 freaking picks. So you're not going to have a lot of defensive ends going that. I mean, you could, but it doesn't look like that right now. You may not have a left tackle go until the 7th pick or something like that. It's going to be really
where he's going. Tennessee's got the 7th pick.
Yeah.
Joe Alt, pack your bags. Bring your acoustic guitar and cowboy hat.
Okay, we're out of here. So we have other news that we'll get to next week. Mixon gets an extension. Rondale Moore gets traded.
Why would they extend Mixon?
It's $13 million guaranteed. It's probably like a 1 to 2 year deal.
You could have waited.
Yeah. Want to make him happy. We'll talk about all that next week. Have a great weekend, everybody. If you're wondering, racquetball is canceled. So thanks a lot, Keenan Allen. And we'll talk to you on Monday on Fantasy Football Today.